and mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
You know, but once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage for 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Hello, everyone. What's the deal, man? Welcome to another fabulous, fantastic, another episode of Chill Will Radio, man. Welcome. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling, man? How y'all doing, man? I'm so glad to be here, man. It's crazy because this is episode 30. So that means I've been doing this for 30 weeks. This shit flew. For 30 weeks. Been doing this for 30 weeks, and I still get that nervous feeling right when I get here. And I started to think about certain people who are like, you know, spend some time in whatever field that they're in, right? I'm sure Keith, right? Shout out to you, my man. I know he still gets a little bit nervous before his shows. I know Beyonce, I know damn well she get nervous before her shows. I know an actor probably gets nervous when a movie comes out. I know a certain big boy, I know probably Charlamagne, the guy gets nervous, probably DJ Envy, whatever it is, man, you get nervous before your craft, get nervous before whatever you're going to do, right? And it's not because there's a lack of confidence. It's not because there's a you don't know what you're doing. It's just because you're just ready for it, right? You're just ready. You're just anxious. You're just ready to not even to get it over with, but to be within the actual moment, to be within that actual process, right? I could say this, man. I've thoroughly, like, was not trying to do this when I first got the opportunity to do it, and I was like, man, I ain't fucking with this shit. I ain't never been on the radio. I'm not trying to do this. I gotta speak. I gotta do all this reckless stuff, but I still managed to do it. Every single week, I get nervous every single week. But the thing with me being nervous every single week when I do this is that you can't let the nervousness get to you. Don't let it get to you. Man. It's only a temporary thing, because once you're in it, that nervous shit is going to die out. For real. That nervous stuff is definitely going to die out. Definitely is. So it's all about being a part of the process, not really worrying about the process, not really planning the process. Just go in and jump and be a part of the process, man. So all of those nervous feelings could die out, man. But anyway, I know that was a long intro, but hello, everyone. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you to those individuals who are listening in. My girl Banana, what's the deal? Thank you to all those individuals who will be listening in later on after the show, whenever. Thank you to those individuals who are going to be listening in tomorrow, next year, next month, whenever you get the shot, and even more so, if you ain't never, ever going to listen to this show, good looking, big homie. Good looking. As always, man, if you ain't heard this show yet, you know, that just means I got someone else to grab. That just means I got another person to reach. You know, you may not caught on yet, but you will catch on eventually. So, how was my week? What's going on? Man, my week was actually really cool. Really busy, as always, working every single day between this and these 4 jobs. You know, it gets hectic sometimes, but I always have to remember that there's a greater purpose to what I'm doing. My biggest thing right now is just to battling being bored, right? Trying to feel, not even battling being bored, but figuring out what to throw within my life so I could bring that small bit of excitement, right? I get bored very quickly. I spoke about this before. I get bored hella fast. And for all of those people who gets bored hella fast, the thing is, it's not about you have to stop what you're doing. It's about you have to switch up what you're doing a little bit, right? So that's just in anything in life, whether it's with this, whether it's your diet, whether it's working out, whether it's whatever, right? It's about switching up just a little bit, a tad bit, to throw it off, because we get comfortable. And then once we get comfortable, we get bored. And then once we get bored, that's when shit starts to go down the drain, right? The quality isn't going to be as good. See, the quality is always best when you're a little bit anxious. When you're a little bit like, I don't know, when it's new, because you're excited, you're ready for it. And I get excited for this, I get excited for this, but now it's time to switch certain things up, right? Not even just with this, but also with my life and with things. And I have certain things that I can personally say I've been slacking off on, because my main focus has been this goddamn IRS bill. This goddamn IRS bill. And I'm almost there. Almost there. My goal is to pay this shit off before June 1st, before I go on my fabulous trip to Peru with my baby. Shout out to you, girl. I see you. But anyway, man, that's what it is. My week is fine. And oh my God, I need to. So before every Sunday I work every day. So before I come here, I'm coming from work, right? My job is about 5 minutes away. I work at a hospital in Culver City, right? And I really don't understand why it is so hard for why are Russians so motherfucking aggressive? I'm having a simple conversation with them, and it's like they're aggressive as fuck. Their language is aggressive, their tone is aggressive, and they don't mean anything by it. They just it's like that was the most irritating thing throughout the day, dealing with the Russians. That sounds kind of political, but but outside of that, man, my day was cool. Everything is great. Everything is fine. So moving on forward into the self-care piece, right? One of the things I want to talk about here within the self-care piece is something that has kind of been on my mind a little bit lately, right? On my mind a little bit lately. And I believe it's something that is important for a lot of us, right? Because sometimes within the things that we're doing, we can get disconnected from our friends, from the people in our lives, from the individuals who we've grown with, right? We can get disconnected. Right? So the self-care piece that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen at some point in time, right, is to make an effort to connect with someone you've disconnected with. Right? Make an effort to connect with someone you disconnected with. Now, that's not saying that, make an effort and go connect with someone that you haven't spoke to about in a while. Keith, I'm not racist, my boy. Man, these racial jokes about me is so funny, but hey, it is what it is. I'm proud to be a black man in America, because I'm always talking about black stuff, and black on black on black on black on black. Shouts out to you. Anyway, self-care piece that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to make an effort to connect with someone you've disconnected with. Make an effort to connect with someone you disconnected with. It does not have to be, someone whom you cut ties with. If you cut ties with that person, then hey, by all means, don't do it. It does not have to be someone where you haven't spoken to in years. Don't do it, right? And if you feel as if there's going to be some form of consequence behind that connection, don't do it, right? Don't do it. If there's going to be some form of consequence behind you making that connection or behind you reaching out, don't do it. However, right, if that person has been on your mind, if you notice that you haven't spoken to that person in a while, hit that person up. Hit that person up. Hit that person up. The one thing I hate the most, you go somewhere, you go see somebody you haven't seen in a while. The first thing they be like, yo, blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. After y'all get all that stuff, man, you ain't hit me up. Your next response is, dog, you ain't hit me up either. And blah, blah, blah. It takes two to communicate. It takes two to tango. So if you're thinking about someone, if someone is on your mind, hit them up. You ain't got to sit there and have this full-blown conversation with them. You ain't got to do all that other stuff. Nah, I'm just checking in, yo, what's good, seeing how you feeling, how you doing. Make it simple, make it quick, make it easy, right? Especially if it's someone that you miss. If it's someone that you miss, then go ahead. But if you honestly think that, one, that effort isn't really going to mean anything, then don't do it. If you think there's a consequence behind you reaching out to that person, then don't do it. Right? Don't do something if you feel as if there's going to be something bad that happens behind it. However, if that person has been on your mind, if it is a friend, if it isn't, if it's an ex, that means you just need to go fix on your whole shit. But if it's a friend, hit that person up. Homegirl you ain't spoke to in years, homeboy you ain't spoke to in years, a cousin, a family member, or whatever, hit them up, right? Let them know you're alive. Let them know you're thinking about you, man. It's important, because we all want to believe that someone is thinking about us, right? We all love the way it feels when someone tells us, like, yo, I've been thinking about you. They don't even have to say much after that. But I'm like, yo, I've been thinking about you, man. How you doing? They love that. Send somebody that message. Send somebody that, because you never know what that other person may be going through, right? You've probably made the disconnection because you were going through something yourself. And now that you're out of whatever storm that you're in, make that connection again. Reconnect. Here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to unconsciously disconnect from certain people because we're going through our shit, but then get mad at that next person for not hitting us up. Right? Just because you're going through your stuff and that person hasn't hit you up, that does not mean they're a bad person because they haven't hit you up, because they ain't know you was going through that shit. They don't know you was going through that shit. See, sometimes what we do is when we get disconnected from our friends and we were going through something at that time, we try to put that on that other person's shoulder. We try to make that person feel bad for not hitting us up because we was going through our shit, when in reality, you never told them something was going on. You never told them what was the deal, right? So don't get mad at that person. Even though you still want that friendship, even though you still want that relationship in any type of way, just hit that person up. I got a few people on my phone book that I need to hit up. I have a few people that I thought that I need to hit up because I thought about them a few times. But then I had to realize that if I was to hit them up, that's going to open the wounds to a negative thing, right? Don't do it. I believe a few episodes back I spoke about deleting contacts in your phone if that last memory of that individual was something negative, right? The last memory I've had of certain individuals that I think I should hit them up was negative, so I'm not going to hit them up. What's the point? Now, if that relationship was strong, if that relationship was big, if you care about that relationship that much, go ahead, hit them up. See if you can be in that relationship. Do your part. Because sometimes the only reason why they are on your mind is because you haven't done all that you can do to fix the relationship. Do everything that you can do to fix the relationship. Say what's up. So that way it can be off of your chest. So that way you can get your closure. Because that's all it is. Closure is one of the best medicines. Sometimes you need that closure. All the time you need that closure. Closure does not mean you have to speak to that next person, but sometimes closure means that I just need to get this off of my chest. Right? You could be going through a situation with an ex, and you could be thinking that you're missing that person, when in reality you just need your closure. So you hitting them up and telling them how you feel, and immediately after you tell them how you feel, you're good, that's just the closure that you needed. Right? So find someone. If there is someone on your mind, a friend, a relative, whomever, that you feel as if you should hit them up. Make an effort to connect with someone you've disconnected with. And I'm actually going to do that sometime this week, right? I have a brother here in the city that I have not seen probably within a whole fucking year. And he lives about 5 minutes away from me. Crappy as hell. So I'm going to make that connection with my big brother, man. Because he lives up the street and I haven't seen him in a whole year. And I miss him, dog. So I'm going to hit him up. Same thing with you. Make an effort with someone make an effort to connect with someone you've disconnected with. Make an effort to connect with someone you disconnected with. Didier, did someone say tacos? No. Anyway, happy Cinco de Mayo to all my little Mexican partners and all my little Latinas and Latinos and Chicanos and all that good stuff. Happy Cinco de Mayo, partners. I remember at high school, I don't know about you, Didier, but I remember at high school, man, I went to God Prison Middle School and I went to Lockton High School. Cinco de Mayo wasn't like this turn-up day. Well, it was, but Cinco de Mayo was a day in which we start riots with the Mexicans. Cinco de Mayo was the day we started riots with Mexicans at high school. Like, we just gonna go punch a Mexican and just start a riot. That sounds bad and terrible and racist as fuck. But goddamn, we was terrible in high school. Like, all the little riots and everything, man. People getting beat up, people getting slapped and everything. But hey, that's high school, man. We grown now. Didier, sometimes we feel we need to build the relationship back. Sometimes that is right. That is right. Sometimes we do feel we need to build the relationship back. However, However, sometimes building the relationship back is not your responsibility. Sometimes building the relationship back is not your responsibility, right? It may not be your responsibility to build upon that relationship. It may not be your responsibility to put the Band-Aid on that wound. It may not be your responsibility, right? Because we have to understand, even though it takes two to build a bridge, it takes two to connect, it takes two to build a relationship and to sustain a relationship. The thing is that individual who opened the wound, who cut it, it is their responsibility to initiate it, right? Initiate the building of the bridge, initiate the fixing the mends, initiate healing up and cleaning up that wound, right? You could come in on the other end, on the back end, and help them out and do what you got to do, but if you do not initiate, if you did not initiate the nonsense within it, if you did not open that wound, if you didn't do none of that, don't reach out, because you're still going to feel some type of way. You're still going to feel a little bit like uneven. You're still going to feel, unease. Like you're still going to feel something. Wipe your hands clean if you need be, but don't feel as if you have to build the relationship back, because all relationships that end does not need to start again. All relationships that end does not need to start again. Sometimes it is what it is. For real though, definitely riots. Oh yeah, riots in high school was a mess, man. Didier, it takes two to reconcile, man. Only one to forgive. It takes two to reconcile, only one to forgive, man. I would say it takes two to forgive, right? You have to forgive one. That individual who opened the wound, they have to forgive themselves for hurting you. And that other individual who was wounded, they have to forgive you for actually doing that. So it's a two-way street for everything, right? Because a relationship is two parts. There's never, if a relationship is one-sided, the relationship is never going to work. It's never going to be cool. It is never going to work out, man. Love the show, Brother Will, man, tuning in from Baltimore. My main man from Baltimore, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you. Now, moving on forward into the main topic of the show. One thing we're speaking about today, man, and this was the topic of the show was given to me from a therapy session that I had this week within my individual therapy session, right? Understanding the difference between talking and processing, right? Understanding the difference between talking about a situation and processing about that situation, right? Whether it's a trauma, processing that trauma, whether it's, if somebody did something bad to you, processing that with that person, right? There's a difference between the two, right? And as I was breaking it down to my client within a session, he didn't get it. And I could tell he didn't get it. And I could understand why he didn't get it, because as we were speaking about his trauma, there was no connect, right? Sometimes we could just throw the stuff out there, right? Sometimes we could just throw the stuff out there and maybe we're not connected with it because we have disassociated from that situation that much. We have disassociated from that situation that much. And that's the difference. That's the difference between talking about a situation and processing the situation. So talking about a situation, it means that you're disconnected from your feelings around that situation, from your feelings around that trauma, right? You're disassociating yourself, right? You're really setting yourself apart from those memories, from that trauma, from those feelings. So you won't have to go through those feelings again, right? Processing means that we're speaking about the situation, we're talking about the trauma, but we're not only talking about the trauma, we're connected with the memories, we're connected with the feelings of that trauma that happened in the past within the present moment. Talking means we're just talking about the situation and we're disconnected from it. We've disassociated with it. We're not trying to deal or think about the memories at all. Processing means that we are connected. We are in tune with the memories and the feelings of that trauma within the present moment, right? That's the difference between the two. And if we don't understand the difference between the two, we're never really going to be able to get through whatever the situations that we get through. And a lot of the times we don't even know why or how or when we begin to disassociate from the issue, right? Because there's problems when it comes to disconnecting from your issue. There's problems that are getting that come from it, right? One of those problems is that emotion, those feelings, they get buried. They get buried all the time. And we all know when stuff get buried, it's going to come back in some way. It's going to come back in some way. And it's not just going to come back with that one feeling. It's not just going to come back with that one emotion. No, it's going to come back 35 billion times stronger, right? Because it's not that emotion that is just coming back. It's that emotion along with the other emotion that was on top of it, along with the other thing that was on top of it. Because what we don't understand is we can create a habit of burying our emotions. We could create a habit of disassociating and disconnecting from it is, right? See, sometimes it starts in our childhood, right? See, sometimes if we grow up in a very traumatic situation, if we grow up in a very traumatic environment, we unconsciously immediately learn how to disconnect from that situation so we can be able to save ourselves the bullshit from later. So we can be able to save ourselves from dealing with the trauma or dealing with the feelings or dealing with the emotions. Because once we figure out how to disconnect, it seems as if everything is much simpler. Everything. It's easy to deal with any type of traumatic person, right? I say that same thing about a lot of us who are in the hood, right? We hear gunshots. We don't run. We're not, it's just some of us try to figure out what type of gun that was, right? We see a fight. It's like, we see drug deals. It's like, we see it's like, we see violence. We like, it is what it is. We see stuff in the house. We like, it's not that bad. It's not that it doesn't hit us. It's that we've unconsciously built this mechanism or this coping mechanism, this defense mechanism within our life to when something negative happens to us, we immediately tuck it away. We've created this coping and this defense mechanism to where if something terrible in life happens to us, we immediately tuck it away. And we don't know how to resurface it. No, it's not that we don't know how to resurface it. We don't know. We definitely don't want to. We keep that shit away. We do not want to deal with that shit. And that's the problem. The problem is that we tuck it away and we don't want to deal with it. But when we tuck it away, you know what's the thing that's coming right after? You get numb to everything. Especially if this is something that you've been doing your entire life, right? You get numb to everything, right? I've been an individual, right? That I've been through a whole lot. And I'm 27 years old right now. And I am just not figuring out how to connect with certain feelings. But before that, I was disconnecting with everything because I was taught how to tuck shit away and just keep it moving forward. Because as a young black male within the hood, you don't have time to connect with your feelings. You don't have time to try to be emotional and try to process it. You don't have time to deal with all that other stuff. You got time to save your life. That's that, right? Because the second we decide to take the time to try to connect with the situation that we're going through could be the second we lose our life. That's the thing with young black males and young black women within the hood, right? We don't have time to process. We are in constant survival mode. So when it does come time to process, we're like, what the fuck? This ain't cool. I'm not dealing with none of those emotions. So for me to not deal with them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to become numb. I'm going to become numb to everything, right? Because you're not just becoming numb to the heartache. You're not just becoming numb to the trauma. You're becoming numb to every emotion. Because you can't pick and choose what emotion you want to deal with, what emotion you don't want to deal with, right? It's like sometimes you just start laughing for some odd reason. Even when you don't want to laugh, or even when you're trying to figure out why you're laughing, sometimes you just be laughing. Sometimes you could just start crying for some odd reason. Sometimes you just start bawling. And then there'll be other times in which you be happy. And then there'll be other times in which you just be sad. You'll wake up in a bad mood. We have those times in which random emotion just happens and it's there. But the thing is, when it comes to this habit that we have built up, when it comes to burying our emotions, we become numb to all of them. We become numb to all of those emotions, right? We become numb to the happiness. We become numb to the sadness. We become numb to the anger. We become numb to everything. We don't know how those emotions feel, so we build a reputation of only reacting and not really responding, right? We get angry. The reason why we get angry so much is because we react. We're not responding. We all know how to react. Nobody knows how to respond. See, when you're responding to your emotion, when you're responding to whatever is going on, that's because you're taking the time to be present. When you're just reacting, you're just going. You're not even thinking about the consequence. You're not even realizing the issues or the feelings or the emotions that are associated with it. You're just going, right? So we built up a habit of becoming numb to everything. And like I said, we're not just becoming numb to the trauma. We're becoming numb to everything. And that happens with all of us in a lot of situations, especially a lot of us in the hood. We don't want to deal with it at all. We don't want to deal with it at all. And then the reason why we disassociate from the situation is because the trauma is so bad that we just need to get away from the feelings, right? Nobody wants to deal with that shit, especially me, right? Growing up, right? I don't know about a lot of y'all, but especially me. My whole thing was, and even now, sometimes to this day, my big thing was, Willis, you ain't no bitch. That was my big thing was, Willis, you ain't no bitch. And the second you try to connect with those feelings, the second you try to become emotional, the second you try to get a little sad, you start to talk to yourself and you start to believe that, like, oh, these are bitch-made feelings. You as a man should not be entertaining those bitch-made feelings. So you need to get out of your bitch-made feelings and live the life without being a bitch. It's crazy how we're taught up and how we brought up, because that's not being a bitch. That's just us moving out of survival. Because like I said earlier, we don't really have the time to connect with our feelings. We don't really have the time to process our feelings. We have the time to go and get through it. Because the second we try to connect could be the second our heads get chopped off. But the big thing about it is, right, processing those feelings is the strongest thing you could ever do. Trying to get connected with those feelings is the strongest thing that we can ever do, right? Another reason as to why we disassociate ourselves from it or from that situation is out of guilt, right? We try to separate. We try to find ways to separate who we are from that situation. We try to find ways to separate who we are from that situation, because we sometimes can look back at that situation and wish, like, damn, I should have done something different, right? I should have moved. I should have said this. I should have done that, right? I should have done whatever. Like with myself, right? I was very, very regretful for not seeing my mother at the hospital. Very regretful for not connecting with those feelings that I had when my mother passed. I was high, right? So I tried to separate. I tried so hard to separate who I was from that situation. Same with a lot of us, right? If, for example, you've grown up in a very abusive household and all you see is your father beating your mother, and let's say you're the oldest son, and you can do nothing to protect your mother. You can do nothing to help her out. What you're going to do is you're going to disassociate from it, because you're going to look at yourself at that age and you're going to feel guilty. You're going to be mad at yourself for the fact that you couldn't do something. You didn't do nothing. You couldn't put up a pot and smack him over his head. You couldn't go fight him. You couldn't do nothing. You had to just sit there and watch your mother get beat. You're going to disassociate yourself from that situation. And when we disassociate ourselves from that situation and we try to bury those feelings, a lot of shit is going to start to happen. What's the one thing that definitely will start to happen? We're going to start to embody those emotions that we're running away from. The second, as long as we continue to bottle up and to bury and to hide from those emotions that we are trying to disassociate with, what's going to happen is we're going to embody the behavior of those emotions that we are running away from, right? Those individuals who've grown up in abusive households, right? One, all they know is abuse, so obviously they're going to become an abuser. But how also, what they're going to do is they're going to bury those emotions when it comes to the abuse that they've witnessed, and they're going to try to run from it. And the thing that you have to understand is you're not going to run from your past. You're not going to run from the negative things that went on previously. So what's going to unconsciously happen is that you're going to embody those emotions. You're going to become that abuser. You're going to become, and this is a sticky subject, but you're going to become that molester, that child molester, right? I remember one of the first hard cases that I've had, out of grad school was I had it was like this 18 or 19-year-old kid, and he was molesting his niece, and she was about 5 or 6 at the time, and I could not pull myself to actually deal with it until I had a conversation with him, and he told me the only reason why he was doing that was because that's what he thought love was. Because that's what he thought love was. Because every time he was to get molested as a child, every time his father used to molest him, they would always come back and say, I love you. I love you. So that's what we start to equate love with. But he also, his entire teenage and adolescent years was disconnect himself from that situation, right? So when it came time for him to show love to someone, he started to embody those emotions that he was running away from. He started to embody that behavior that he was running away from. When in reality, if you would have just took a second back and just started connecting with what you needed to connect it with, then you would have been fine, right? And that's the thing, right? How do we connect back? How do we begin to rewire and line up those wires and connect back with the feelings and the emotions that, we are running away from, we have disconnected with, we have disassociated ourselves with? The first thing is go see a therapist. Go see a therapist, because sometimes reconnecting with those feelings that you've been hiding for X amount of years, it's going to be a real bad move, especially if those emotions are aggressive in nature, especially if you are an aggressive person who wears their emotions on their sleeves and shit on their hands. See, connecting with those feelings, man, can bring up certain things that can cause you to react and not respond. Connecting with those feelings is going to cause you to move a certain way in which you don't know who that person is. I know for me, right? The second I started to become really, really connected with my feelings, I was a very angry individual, because I was like, why in the hell am I feeling like this? Why in the hell am I feeling like this? And that's going to be the same for a lot of us when we start to connect with ourselves. When we start to connect with those feelings, we're going to start to ask ourselves, why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling like this for this long? Because for me, the big thing for me was, why am I feeling like this for this long? See, a lot of the times we try to talk to ourselves and say, hey, I'm cool, I'll get out of that situation. But that situation that we're trying to get out of, we don't get out of it. We can't get over that depression. We can't get over that anxiety. We can't get over that anger. We can't get over all of that stuff, right? So we just start to get angry. We start to get frustrated. We start to get very, very irritable. We start to lash out and get pissed off at anybody that's in our way. And that's why going to see a therapist is crucial. Because within that moment of beginning to reconnect to those feelings, you're going to have someone to be able to teach you the tools and the skills that you will need to connect the right way, right? To connect the right way, because sometimes you could be connecting with your feelings the wrong way. Sometimes you could be connecting with your feelings that you don't need to connect with at that moment. Sometimes you could be connecting with your feelings with someone that does not need to hear your business, right? Because you could try to reconnect with your feelings by expressing your feelings to someone, and they could shit on your feelings. And then once they shit on your feelings, you're going to tuck away your feelings for life, and you're going to be like, fuck it, right? You're going to be like, fuck it, because you've seen the consequences that came behind your effort of trying to connect with your feelings, and it just went down the drain. So now you're going to be like, I ain't doing it again. So obviously, when it comes to figuring out how to reconnect with your feelings, first thing I would highly suggest, if you have the ability to, If you have insurance, if you're able to pay for it, if you have the ability to, find a therapist. And if you can't find a therapist, find a smart person in your corner. Go holler at a good person, man. If you're listening and you need to holler at me in order to try to figure it out, come holler at me. I got your back. However, when we go do that, one of the first things we have to do is we have to really become aware. We have to really, really look into ourselves and become aware of that situation, that traumatic thing. We have to become aware of the memories, and then we have to become aware of the feelings that are associated with it. See, the reason why trauma therapy is so hard for a lot of the individuals, because trauma therapy literally means you're sitting within your trauma however long you're in therapy. Whether it's for that hour, whether it's for that 2 hours, whether it's for however many sessions it is, what you're doing is you're purposely putting yourself in that trauma. But the thing is, when it comes to trauma therapy, is that as you purposely put yourself in that trauma, as you purposely connect yourself with those feelings and those memories, what's going to happen is, and it always goes back to David Goggins, what's going to happen is you're going to begin to build a callus on your brain through the tools that you're going to learn, right? Through the repetitions that you're giving yourselves when it comes to revisiting those memories. Because something that is scary once isn't as scary the second time. Something that is scary the second time, damn sure isn't going to be as scary the third time. The more you're paying attention, the more you're revisiting something, the less harmful it will be. Period. The whoopings your mama was giving you at 5 years old, they don't feel the same now that you're 10 years old. You get what I'm saying? Because of all the whoopings that you've gone through those 5 years. It's not going to feel the same. You're going to build a tolerance to that. So trauma therapy is hard for a lot of individuals because you're literally sitting within that trauma. You're telling me to feel my pain, be conscious of the pain and the feelings that I'm going through, and that is hard. But it's what's needed, right? And that's the thing, right? After you become aware of the memories, the trauma, and the feelings that are associated with it, right? You have to recognize and validate your needs. You have to recognize and validate your needs. If your need is to sit within that trauma, if your need is the love, if your need is the love from that person or this person, if your need is whatever, recognize it. Hey, that's what I need. I need that love over there. Hey. But you have to validate it. You have to. Because if you don't validate it, you're not going to feel as if that need is important. And if your need is not important to you, you're going to toss it over your shoulder and it's not going to matter. You got to validate your needs, people. You have to validate your needs. You have to recognize and then validate your needs because they're your needs. The thing with your needs, what you have to understand is that they are yours. It's that simple. These are your needs. And if you don't validate your needs, you're never going to be able to get through what you need to get through. You're never really going to be able to get what you want, right? I say all the time, I hate it when people try to say, oh, I'm broken. I'm broken. Like, no, you're not broken. We are not machines, right? We are not people. We are not things that people can just put back together and fix. I am not a light switch. I am not a piece of glass that is just shattered. No, I am a human being that has feelings. And every human being has needs. The thing is, when we have a need that is not met, we begin to feel some type of way. We begin to get angry, depressed, anxious, whatever, right? So we are humans with unmet needs. The thing is, we have to fill that void. Once we figure out what that need is, and then once we validate what that need is, fill it. Fill it with some substance. Fill it with something dope. Fill it with something cool. Don't fill it with no bullshit. Don't fill it with drugs. Don't fill it with raggedy people. Don't fill it with a codependency type of behavior. No. Fill it with love. Fill it with the right people. Fill it with hard work. Fill it with dedication. Fill it with inspiration. Fill it with whatever you need to fill it with. Because we feel needs all the time, but we just fill those needs with bullshit. Recognize your needs. Validate your needs and fill that needs. Fill that void. Because what you have to understand is it is your responsibility to care for self. It's not my responsibility. I'm a therapist. I am a therapist, but it is not my responsibility to care for you. It's not. Am I going to care for you? Yes. Do I care for you? Yes. But it isn't my responsibility to care for you, to care for your well-being. No, it is yours. It is your responsibility to care for self. It is your responsibility to be dope. It is your responsibility to be great. It is your responsibility to get you through that shit. And if you don't understand that it's your responsibility, what you're going to do is you're going to continue to put off your needs and the things that you need to do onto someone else. And that is never fair. Don't put your emotions, don't put your insecurities, don't put your self-hate onto someone else because you're not willing to take the responsibility to care for self. Start there. Connect back with yourself by seeking some help, by becoming aware of the memories, that trauma, and the emotions that come with it, by recognizing and validating the needs that you have, and by understanding that it is your responsibility to care for self, people. Understand that. So, moving on forward to the question. The question that I come up midway through the show, the question that I never write down before the show, the question that I come up because of the vibe or the energies that I get from the show, right? The question that I have for you all is, when it comes to processing, ask yourself, when was the last time you processed with your own insecurities? When was the last time you processed with your own insecurities? Because we have those insecurities that we never tend to connect with, right? We always run away from those insecurities. We always put our insecurities onto someone else, right? When was the last time you've processed with your insecurities? When was the last time you've processed about your insecurities? When was the last time you sat down and connected with your insecurities? Do that. Take a quick little second, homie, and do that. The reason why I think you should do that is because of those ways that I've told you how to connect back with yourself. If you start to become aware of your insecurities, you're not going to lie to yourself about it. If you start to recognize and validate the needs that are associated with your insecurities, you're not going to lie about it. If you start to understand that it is your responsibility to care for those insecurities, it is your responsibility to build up those insecurities, you're not going to be mad at yourself about it. When was the last time you processed with your insecurities? Take a quick second and do that. So, as always, to all those folks that is listening, good looking, right? If you're listening now, good looking. If you listen halfway through the show and you didn't catch the first part, good looking. If you're going to hear this tomorrow, good looking. Hey, shout out to my girl Aaliyah. She all the way in Paris. She's going to be hearing this tomorrow. She listens to this every day on her commute to work. And I thoroughly appreciate that because she always hits me up and gives me her little critique. You know, Willis, she did this great. Willis, she did that great. And everything that she's doing out there in Paris, I love it and I love you. So when you listen to this, man, this is a little shout out to you because you are a wonderful individual. So good looking to listening all the time. So like I said, if you're listening today, tomorrow, next week, next year, good looking. But if also ain't never, ever, 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 ever gonna listen to this, good looking too, homie. Why? Because you are the one who gives me that motivation to actually keep going. I'm not the type of person to quit. That's why I don't really like doing or taking on that much responsibility, because I don't know how to quit. And because I don't know how to quit, and because I know you right there ain't tuned in yet, you're going to hear me at some part, big homie. So, good looking to you, because you ain't caught on yet, but you will catch on eventually. And always remember, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.